What's this video about anyways? Well, if you watched the title, read the title, you'll know it has to do with installing a smoke alarm. As you can see, there's no smoke alarm up there, and I'll be explaining that in a minute. If you want to see how to install a smoke alarm, stick around. Now, before I install this smoke alarm, little history on this smoke alarm. This one was chirping the other night. Okay, and basically when it chirps, it's notifying you that the power is low. The battery is low. It needs to be replaced, something like that. And then all heck broke loose about a half hour after it chirped. I wasn't sure if it needed to be replaced, but then the whole system to the condo went off. All the smoke alarms went out. When finally I disconnected this one, the other ones in the condo stopped chirping. That told me this was the one that needed to be replaced. When I took it down, it was still chirping because it had an interior lithium 10-year battery. I couldn't get it to shut off, and here it is. I beat it to death with my hammer last night to get it to stop working. Now, on some of these, and I didn't even know this, on this particular one, there's a way to actually shut the battery off by breaking this tab. You got to read the directions and stuff. I like to deactivate it to turn it off, because you're not supposed to mess with lithium style 10-year batteries. Once you install it, you're supposed to set it and forget about it. Okay, and so that's why I'm getting ready to install a new smoke alarm in its place. Okay, that's what this video is about. So I went to the store and got another smoke alarm. This is the one I'm gonna install. Now, when I was at the store, I got like for like. I always like to get the same. Here's one. Here's an old one from another place where I'm going to be installing another one too. See, I've got three I'm actually installing. I've already installed a brand new one way up high up here off of this extension ladder. So I didn't make a video of that, but I'm going to make a video of this other one, and it's hardwired. And so when you're at the store, you got to make sure you get the hardwired one, and that's what that means. And see, it says hardwired with 10-year battery backup. I like the 10-year ones. That way, when you twist it on there and hook it up, it activates the 10-year lithium battery that's inside it, and you're supposed to not have to worry about it for 10 years. That's why it says 10-year worry-free smoke alarm. Okay. Now, there's so many at the store. Don't get confused. You look at some, it might not say 10-year, or it might say 10-year, but you have to put alkaline batteries in it you have to change them out every year. You want to make sure it says 10-year battery backup on it. Okay, and so that's what I'm doing, because once I get that installed, I don't want to have to mess with it for 10 years. Okay, and so, because look where it's at. You know, I got to get up there with an 8-foot extension ladder. I got to be up there on my hands and knees, and be up there. I might even get a little piece of plywood and set on top of there, because that's just sheetrock. And you got to be careful too when you come up something like this. You see this ledge here? That's just sheetrock on there, and then you got 2x4s spanning every 16 inches or every 2 feet or whatever. And if you stand in the wrong place, you could break right through this if you're not paying attention. Okay, so I think I might just put a little piece of plywood up here, and then it'll transfer my weight, even if I'm not on a 2x4 exactly underneath it or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to do that before I get up there and get going. So I'll do that, and a couple more things I've got to do before I get up there. What are they? Okay, well, got this one here. When I take it out, it's going to have something like this, replaced by, with the dates, and it might have a place here where you installed it. Oh, this one doesn't. It just says replaced by. Some of them have a piece of tape that installed, date, and replaced by. Okay, make sure you fill that out, because you may you may think, oh yeah, I know, 10 years from now I got to replace it. Well, 5 years goes by nice and fast, as you know, and you may think, oh gee man, how many more years before I have to replace this? I forget now. Just write it down. Just put it right there on the side. Write it on the side, or you can write it on the back with a felt tip pen if you don't want to write it on the side. Whatever. And if you do write it on the side, make sure you face the writing towards the wall or something like that, especially if you're going to use a felt tip pen or something. Okay. And so I'm going to get that plywood, and we'll be ready to go in a minute. And I just pulled that out of this box, and they used to come with some wire nuts. Usually they give you 3 little wire nuts in a plastic bag. They cheeseballed me. And see, here's a little plastic cover. This is a nice little dust cover. Like if you're installing it and you're going to do some construction work or painting or spraying or sweeping up before you install carpet or something, you already got your smoke alarms up, make sure you put this cover over it, you know, kind of like a shower cap, and that'll protect it from getting dusty. You know, I see a lot of painters, they'll take a piece of plastic. Well, just save these if you got them. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and install this, and see on this one here, it says replace by, and then here's date of install. So I'll put the date of install, and I'll put the replace by, and you can look on the back and see what the date is. See, this is January 2021, even though it's almost, well, it's later than that. It's 8 or 9 months later than that. We're in October already. Okay, and so this is when it was manufactured. Does that mean I've got to replace it by January of 2031, 10 years from that date, or 10 years from the date of install? That's for you to decide. You know, but theory has it, once you put this on, once you turn it and hook it on and twist it on the base properly, I would say you've got 10 years. Okay, all right, and here's my little adapter, and the old one has an adapter up there, and because I've got like for like, see, this is an old one. This would fit in the same place, but I don't think, you know, when you buy a brand new one, use the brand new harness. Don't use the old harness. And if the old harness is plugged into an older harness, there's 2 harnesses up there, take them off and wire it directly up there. And that's what I'm going to do with this one. Time to get busy. This is all I'm going to need to install that. My Phillips screwdriver. I think that's all I'm going to use. My light is not really the best in this room. I'm hoping you're going to be able to see everything, and you'll get the gist of everything. Now see, I just happen to have a little piece of plywood like that. That's spreading out my weight. I'm not standing or kneeling directly on the sheetrock up here, okay? And even though I know this is the same style as the old, see up there, that bracket up there is exactly like this one as far as I know. Exactly, but I'm going to take that down anyways. It might slightly be off. They might have produced these slightly different than they did 7 years ago or so when this one failed. Okay, so I'm going to replace it. I'm going to take this down and see this little housing piece. There's another one up there. I'm not going to use that, even if I think it'll hook in there. I want to put a brand new one up there, okay? Be safe rather than sorry. Okay, all right. I guess it's time to get up there. Okay, I'm down here on the floor, and now I'm going to have to go up there. Hopefully you'll be able to see all this, and I'll walk you through it. myself situated up here. But before I take this housing down, I'm going to take this off, and I don't have to take these screws down. Just loosen up the screws about 1/4 inch or so. You should be able to swivel this and take this down. Okay, leave those screws up there. All right. Now I can get to this, and make sure you got your power off. I found out which breaker it was downstairs, and I pulled it off. Now see, there's 2 harnesses here. Here's the harness that came with the smoke alarm from before, and they've got another harness here. What's going on? What's the deal here? Well, what happened was the last person who installed the smoke alarm, there was another smoke alarm up there from before. And look what they did. They took out, here's the old harness for the smoke alarm, okay? Here's the older harness from the smoke alarm, the previous one. Now usually I don't like to just plug in a new harness to an old harness. That's almost kind of like a no-no. And so I just have to kind of look at this. I'm going to use the same wire nuts up here. It looks like there's a yellow on the white ones and red on the harness. And this harness happens to be white, yellow, black. The other harness was white, black, and red. So obviously, you know, white to white, black to black, red to yellow, or if you have a red, generally you'll have a red wire coming out of your ceiling. So the red goes to red, or red goes to yellow. Okay, so they've got the red or the yellow one hooked up to the red, and I could leave it just like that if I want. If you get confused, you could leave it exactly like that. Get your next one up here, and just hook up the red, and then take the black out and hook the black up. You know, you could do that if you want. I'm going to choose not to do it that way, and I know the red wire nut went to red and black. You got to remember that, because you don't want to, especially because you got a yellow wire nut, you don't want to take the red wire nut. It seems as though we've got three sets of wires here. I'm going to hook the yellow wire nut back up to the whites, okay? Because I don't want to forget and put a red wire nut, put one of the red wire nuts on the white, because maybe it won't twist on there exactly right. Maybe it'll be too big or something. You know what I mean? Okay, so I'm going to take the new harness, and white, red, and black. I'm just going to hook up the white to the white with the yellow wire nut like it was before. And like I say, make sure your power is off. I've already determined that the power is off at the breaker, and I want to get this on there. Sometimes you could, some electricians frown on using the same wire nuts, but if you think they're on there tight, I usually don't have an issue with that. I know. Okay, now I'm hooking up the black with the red wire nut. Okay. Pull on the wire, make sure everything feels tight, and now I got the red wire that goes to the red wires up here. Very simple. You don't have to be an electrician for this. You know what you're doing, or you just watch a few videos. I got more videos. You can always go to my main channel page, click on playlists, scroll down to smoke Smoke alarms, and every video I've ever done on a smoke alarm will be there, okay, in that area. Okay, now I can push that up there, keeping my fingers off of the ceiling. I don't want to get my grubby fingers up there. Push your wires up there far enough, because I know this flexible line is going to be coming out of the middle. I don't want these wire nuts so close that it's going to encroach in this from being able to be pushed up there. Okay, so far so good, right? Okay, now I've got my mounting bracket. I've already got the screws up there, and I slide that whichever direction I need to make it so that it fits up there nice. There's hole patterns up here for 3 different size electrical junction boxes. And now I'm just going to screw that up snug. I'm going to keep my fingers off the white ceiling. Get it snug enough so this is not going to slide around, okay? But don't go overly tight on it to where you break through or something like that, okay? Now, see, I've only used a Phillips screwdriver up there. And now I want to make sure I get this plugged in properly. Okay, like that. And on the writing on this, if I had a felt tip pen and the writing was really big, I put that in towards the back. But this one I wrote with just a regular pen. And now I'm going to get it up there, and it will go up in different locations. I want to make sure it's all fitting up there nice and snug all the way around. Don't try to twist it on. You don't feel on the back side that it's flat. Now I can twist it righty-tighty to the right. Once I do that, this should activate the battery, and it should chirp at me. Okay, it chirped. And now I've got the light, and that tells me everything's activated and everything's fine. Okay? Now, once I get done, then I can turn the breaker back on, and then all I have to do on this one is press the button up there, and that'll set this. If you don't press that button, the alarm is not set yet. You see what I mean? And read your directions if you got any questions, and I'm going to set that after I turn the breaker back on. And I don't necessarily have to get up here if you got I got a long extension paint pole, and I just reach it from the ground and just push that, and then I'll have that set. Okay, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Make sure you clean up and everything, and you know, it's pretty easy to do. And if you can do one, guess what? You can do the rest of your smoke alarms in your house and all that. If you had an electrician come to install that smoke alarm, how much do you think he would charge you? He'd probably charge you for his labor, probably 150 bucks or more, and then the smoke alarm, and then he'll charge you 20% on top of the price of the smoke alarm, and he may charge you to go get the smoke alarm at the hardware store and all that kind of stuff. And it could be a $250 bill out the door if you're not careful, okay? And if you have 3 or 4 of them, maybe he'll give you a price break because he's already there. But don't kid yourself. It's going to cost you a bit. And why not save that money and do it yourself? It's really not that difficult. Like I say, if you got other questions, and I've got other videos that give you all kinds of other directions on smoke alarms and how to install them, how to remove them, and maybe there's another one that you see on my channel that I say something slightly different than this one that you learn even more. You go to my main channel page on my YouTube channel, click on playlists, and then scroll down to the playlist that talks about smoke alarms, and you'll find all of the smoke alarm videos that I've ever produced and put on this channel. Okay, look for it. Okay, so for this one, I'm pretty much done, other than I got to pull my plywood down. I've saw some little some dust and some ghost bunnies up there. Dust bunnies is what I was trying to say. And I'll sweep that up and clean that up. Last thing you want is to see that you were ever here, okay? And like I say, when I get done, I'm not just installing this one. I'm going to be installing a couple more, but I'm not going to make that part of this video. But if this was the only one you were installing, now you can turn your breaker back on. Make sure you turn your breaker back on, because this was a hardwired one. I turned the breaker off first, so I didn't shock myself or anything like that. And then turn the breaker back on before you push your test button up there, your reset button. Okay, if I were to press the reset button right now before turning the breaker on, it could set just the battery, but not the hardwired section. Do you see what I mean? Because the power's not on. So if I press that button now, maybe it chirps, but then when I go downstairs and think, oh man, I have to turn the breaker back on. If I turn the breaker back on, then after that, I'm gonna have to press that button again. You see what I'm saying? You wanna press that after you turn your power back on, okay? And then it'll go through a cycle, and then you'll know that it's all reset, okay? And incidentally, if you have more than one smoke alarm at your house, at your condo, whatever, and you're only replacing one, then what I would say, after you turn your breaker back on, after you press your test button up here, go back to every single one of your smoke alarms and press those test buttons. It's a good idea to go ahead and do that, get in the habit of doing that, to make sure that those are set properly. And it cracked me up too. It's like, how are you supposed to know that this lithium battery is going to last for 10 years and stuff? And I've started reading. This is one that I'm replacing, and it says weekly testing. Look at this. Weekly testing is required. How many people do you know are going to weekly test their smoke alarms every week for the next 10 years? Nobody. And I mean nobody's going to do that. Hey, if you want to, go ahead and do that if you want, but nobody does that. But every once in a while, maybe once a year, go ahead and do it. Turn your power off, press your test button or whatever, test it. Some have a test button and a reset button and a test button or something. This one just happens to have one button. I've seen other ones with two and different things. So not all smoke alarms are created equal. Okay, all right. Test your skills at it, and I'm sure you'll be able to do it. If you can do one, guess what? You can do all of them and save yourself some money for sure.